Let's start with the Rams since they played last night. 7-10, 10-14 in the A10 and slotted into that 10th seed right now. They'll play Thursday in Richmond in the A10 tournament. Looking back on what was sort of an up and down regular season, they were projected to finish much higher in the A10. What happened with the Rams this year?
Well, to see them finish 10th is surprising. I do think the top of the Atlantic 10, while it doesn't have a Dayton like last season, the league goes a good 5 or 6 deep. That said, they've beaten some of the better teams in the league. St. Bonnie's is the regular season champ. VCU, those two teams. I think they could be slotted to face someone like a St. Louis. St. Louis is one of the more physical teams in the league and caused Rhode Island an awful lot of problems. Obviously, URI going in 6 out of 7 losses is not the way you want to trend in March.
Yeah, Jeremy Shepard injured on Saturday. We'll see what his availability is next week. Is there a way, based on what you've seen, that they can get hot and string some wins together? It's a lot to ask when you're playing. You have to win 4 or 5 games to win a tournament. But is it possible URI can make a run?
Well, you just mentioned a really important piece, Jeremy Shepard. He needs to play, and he and Fats Russell together, when they're playing well, now, that hasn't happened in a while, but that's the ingredient for success in a quick tournament, multiple days in a row where you got to win 3 and 4 games in succession. It's a little different this year because, as you know, the A10 is going to play a few rounds and then take a week's break and come back on Selection Sunday with the championship. So I do think that there's a window for a surprise team, just not sure if it can be Rhode Island.
You go back a year ago, maybe mid-February, URI was in good position to make the tournament last year. Struggled down the stretch last year. Obviously didn't have the A10 tournament in Brooklyn. Maybe they could have won it, but as you mentioned, Dayton was unbelievable last year. And then based on what happened this year, is this just a sidetrack this season, or are they trending downwards here?
Well, they were better last year because they had 2 really good seniors, Jeff Doughton and Cyril Langevin. You know, they didn't really replace those guys. You know, they tried to on the fly. Think about the 2 guys they left who departed via transfer. One is one of Connecticut's very best players, and the other, Toppin's brother, is playing a lot at Kentucky. Keep those 2 guys at Rhode Island, I think we're talking about a totally different situation. Instead, David Cox is reworking his program on the fly, an awful lot of transfers. That's usually a recipe for a transition year or a disaster. I would not call this season a disaster. I think there were a lot of close games that they couldn't get done. And hey, bottom line, Fats Russell did not have a big-time year, and he's the key to the team. He's been injured for weeks now. You would hope that he would be able to, with a few more days off, get close to 100%, but I don't think that's possible, Yianni. We've seen that now for almost 2 months where he just can't be playing at 100%.
Yeah, he's been dealing with some ailments for sure. All right, Providence. Ed Cooley called that win over Xavier on Wednesday, the most complete win of the team's year. They close out with St. John's and at home at Nova. Right now tied for 6th in the Big East. Looks like they'll still have to play on that Wednesday because, remember, only the top 5 teams now with UConn in the league get that bye. So that being said, how do you think this last week goes out with PC coming off a strong win?
Well, it's not much of a choice. They have to win 2 games. And by the way, if they do that, I think they can be a top 5 seed the way that things could shake out. They would have to beat at St. John's, very difficult game. St. John's handled Providence maybe as well as any opponent this season. And then Villanova comes in. Villanova is not rolling through people. They just lost to Butler today on the road. So, I think Providence has a chance to win 2 games this week, enter Madison Square Garden with an awful lot of momentum. I mean, I'm sure that's what Ed Cooley's telling his team right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Ed Cooley loves playing at the Garden. They still have to win the whole Big East. Even if they get to the finals, let's say, would their resume be good enough at that point?
If Providence wins these next 2 and then wins 2 more to get to the finals in the Big East, they will definitely be on the bubble. Could that get them in? It could get them in. It'll get them close. I think when you get that close, you get to the Big East championship game, you just want to win 1 more and take it out of the committee's hands for sure.
Yeah. All right, good stuff from Kevin McNamara. Make sure you read and listen to him throughout the month of March as his college basketball expertise comes into play. Kevin, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Yianni.